Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to the September 9th, 2021 edition of Groundwater Talk Live. We've got a great show today with Tylor McMillan, who's our water well demolition specialist. He's going to give us all his insights on that. And so I appreciate folks being here. Shout out to Steve Stieg for showing up and saying hi. We're going to basically record this and we'll post it up on various social media sites as well. So I appreciate that. And if you got any questions, feel free to post them in the YouTube chat. And let's go ahead and bring Tylor on. So good morning, Tylor.
Good morning, Tom.
How you doing today?
Good
Thanks
morning.
for
How are we
taking.
today?
Yeah, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure this is a busy time of year for you, so I really appreciate you doing this and providing your insights.
Oh, not a problem at all. I mean, we're burning the candle at both ends of the stick, but we're getting the job done.
Yeah, no, that's great. So that's good. Have you been busy lately?
Yeah, we've been pretty busy lately. Been picking
Okay,
off 2 to 3 holes a week.
okay. Yeah, we got a little bit of a delay on your sound, so we'll just have to work through that, but that's okay. It's just kind of it's not syncing up well, so it's called latency.
Wonder if
It
it's my
happens on these
Wi-Fi.
things, so not a problem. Nope, we got you frozen. You might want to log off and log. Are you there? Okay, we got you back.
Am I back? Okay, there
Yeah,
we are.
you're back. Okay,
Sorry about that.
so oh no, it's not your problem. It's the internet's problem. So it just happens. So we worked through it, and what you got to say is probably more important anyway. So anyway, for those that may not know you, can you describe exactly what your company does and what you do?
Well, I'm Tyler McMillan. I'm the owner and the operator of Tyler McMillan's Well Service LLC. I specialize in explosive uses for water well purposes for the contractors in the industry.
So you blow up wells for a living, or that's what people think you do.
That's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah, I blow stuff up and get paid for it.
Yeah, hey, every kid's dream growing up, right?
You would not believe how many times I hear that.
Yeah. Well, you know, and it is kind of interesting because it's not quite as spectacular as people think when they get out there. That's kind of the whole purpose, I think, is not to have things blowing way up in the air. Although I know that can happen from time to time. So
It is possible, but I do describe myself as probably the biggest letdown in the explosive industry. There is not much to see when I get onto a job.
if you're doing it right, yeah, there shouldn't be much to see.
Exactly.
So what types of licenses do you need to do the well demolition?
Well, every state's a little bit different, but California being my primary state, we're required to have an ATF license or an FEL, a federal explosives license. Um,
Okay.
Sub tier from that, you have to have county licensing from your local sheriff's departments or your local fire departments, whoever the issuing authority happens to be. And then California standard, you have to have a blasting license issued by the OSHA office.
Wow. So three different licenses. So every time you go into a new county, for instance, you got to get a new license from the county too.
You got to jump through the hoops and make sure you've got your permit straight with the county. Some counties
Wow.
don't have a permit, but most of them do.
Okay. So what kind of lead time is there on the permit to get it from the county? So I imagine that can require some pre-planning.
I've got a pretty good working relationship with many of the counties that I work in on a regular basis, so my turnaround time is pretty fast. But when it comes to a new county that I haven't done a lot of work in and they're just not familiar with the process, it could be a couple of weeks before we're ready to go.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So schedule it out. Just and it's always good to add a little lead time anyway. And usually, well destructions are something you can schedule anyway. So
Correct.
a little bit of noise in there. Okay. So how you got an unusual profession here. So how did you really get your start? Maybe a little background on how you started in the business, what your qualifications are, and how what led you down the path to doing the explosive demolition of wells.
Well, it's kind of one of those things I just fell into, in all honesty. Um, of course, I was blowing things up when I could get my opportunity to as a kid, but
Yeah.
I I got to be around 20, 21 years old, and I went to work at a water company in Sacramento, California called Waterwell Technology. It was owned by Bob Gardino at the time, and this is something that they were offering for well cleaning services when I started working there. And throughout my time of being with them, we started trying into services for the explosives, found out that it worked really well, gained quite a bit of traction, and yeah, we just perfected the method as we went along. It was kind of trial and error to begin with.
Yeah. So you've kind of been a pioneer in the business then.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, when we started, we were making messes, and we'd only do it in an area that a mess was allowed. But I've gotten it down to a science now. We can set a shot off, and not only will the neighbors not know we were there, but we won't even leave a mess on the job site.
Yeah. So experience counts in this business, I'm sure. So that's
Yeah, learning where not to set a charge and where it's going to be the most effective. That was probably the biggest hurdle that we had to overcome.
yeah. Now, do you still do any cleaning of wells using that method, or is it basically just destructions?
Yes, I no, I offer full explosive services. Whether it's
Okay.
cleaning or whether it's demolition, or let's say you got a drill rod hung up in the hole and you're trying to recover your stems at least.
Yeah.
We can do that kind of service for you as well.
Okay. Okay. So if you got a well that's got mineral incrustations in it that are blocking the screens, you probably certainly set the charges a little differently than you would for destroying the well. And we'll get into
Yes,
the
it is a
process here in a little bit. So
yeah, it is a different blast design, but yeah, we could rattle that incrustation right off the inside of the well casing, or we could completely decimate the well.
nice, or anywhere in between. Okay, great. So what types of wells are good candidates for explosive demolition?
Just about everything but your open hand dug well. We could do anything from monitoring wells right up to the largest of municipal production wells.
Okay, so a monitoring well instead of doing the old pressure grouting or drilling them out like people do, you can is so like a PVC versus steel cased well. I mean, does that make any difference? To obviously you need less charge for a PVC well, but a lot of monitoring wells are PVC. So
Yes, a lot of monitoring wells are PVC. They usually go from 2 to 6 inches, somewhere in that area. They have a lot of sanitary seal involved because they are, specifically for monitoring a zone. And rather than going at it with the over drill method, and in some places the pressure drill or the pressure grouting isn't even looked upon as an opportunity anymore. So, over drilling, you have to drill the whole thing out, or we can go in there and just pop the screen interval in the bottom and allow that cement to flow out into the formation.
okay, and so we've talked a little bit while we exchanged some messages when we were prepping for this that actually you can use explosive demolition to stop downward migration of contaminants, and so that's certainly something that I'd want to have you elaborate on a little bit because it sounds interesting for those of us that deal with contaminants, which is most of us in the business, how that works.
Well, in all honesty, the reason this method exists today is because of a problem that we had in San Joaquin County about 16, 17 years ago now. There was a well that had been destroyed, and it was in an area that the upper stratas were contaminated with nitrates, and they were still pulling those nitrates from another well out of a lower water strata. So, Waterwell Technology at the time was contracted to come out and attempt the explosive method to see if it would stop this problem that the county was having. So they drilled out the cement plug that was in the well, and we went in with a charge and we re-cemented and we detonated, and we were actually able to create a solid seal against the clay layer and stop that downward migration.
Nice, because that's the deal with nitrates is get that it's a surface contamination issue, so dealing with that. So interesting. Steve has a question here. If you can see that, when should explosive well rehabilitation be considered versus other methods?
Oh, well, explosive rehabilitation is it has two different sides to it. One, it's your quick, fast, and easy. I need to get this pump back in the ground and putting water on the ground. You can pull that pump. We can do a explosive clean on it, and you can put the pump right back in and make sure you turn it to waste afterward because it's going to pump dirty. But it will bring your production back online if capacity exists. It also works really well at the tail end of full rehabilitation. You've gone in with chemical baths and steel wire brushes and airlifting. This is kind of the cream of the crop. Once you get done with all of that, we'll set that shot off in the perforations and we'll allow that explosive energy to clean further out into the formation than your chemical bath was able to do.
Ah, great. That's interesting. So, and I just did a presentation last night on well rehabilitation, and we didn't really talk about the explosive stuff, but I might need to get more information from you to up my game on my presentations on that. Add more information because for mineral incrustations, they can be challenging, but that would be a great a great opportunity to add another tool to the toolbox. So when you go out and you have a
Absolutely.
specific yeah, when you go out and you have a specific job, well, how do you prep for that job? So say something you have like a 800-foot deep water well. Um, I assume you go and you look at the well logs and the construction, but do you do other stuff? Do you go in and video the well ahead of time, or what kind of prep work do you do so you understand the situation before you go in and design? Because I assume that your blast is going to be specific for every individual well and the conditions at that well. So how do you prep for that?
Well, we are pre-designed for each individual well. I do like to have a well log if possible. We get a lot of wells to destroy that just don't have any logs available. Um, if I have a log, I can look at it. I can target the clay layers. I can target areas that I believe are going to be high potential for void spaces on the outside of the well casing, and location. That's real important. Where we are because we may have a seismic constraint that we have to deal with. Sanitary seal information, like if it's got a 100-foot seal or a 200-foot seal. It's probably not going to do us much good to be setting off a charge up in an area that's already got a sanitary seal. Um, well video logs, I don't get to see very many of them, but they are helpful, especially in a situation where we don't have any information on the well casing itself. We could be dealing with a well that's got debris in it or incrustation or casing damage that already exists. We might be able to see through a perforation and know that there's no gravel pack behind it, and we've got a void space that we're dealing with. So yeah, as much information as we could possibly get, it really helps us target where this is going to be the most effective. Now, if we have little to no information on a well, all we know is we got a 14-inch, 150-foot hole that's out in the middle of this field and nobody knows who drilled it. The best method of practice is just to go in it 20 foot below grade to the bottom of the hole and just blast the entire thing. It's a guarantee to destroy and seal this well casing regardless of drilling methods or construction.
Okay. So the more information, the better, but you can deal with almost nothing. Like most of us in the industry, you want all kinds of information, but you don't always get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I always ask for all kinds of stuff, and I'm lucky if I get half or a quarter of it. But it's
Now, to
just
be
kind of
honest
like,
with you, half the time I'm lucky if I have an address before we know where we're going.
okay, yeah, that sounds about right for this business.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You'd think that people would have well logs around, but it's amazing how many wells are out there, especially even like municipalities and stuff that don't have the well logs.
No.
I'm always amazed with that. So, but okay. So the more information, the better. Steve has another question for us. Um, how or have you been able to determine how far out in the formation you can get without damaging well internals? And I'm assuming that's using explosive rehabilitation methods.
Yeah, I believe he's referring to rehab methods. Um, when you're rehabbing a well with an explosive, you're really only setting a shot off in the perforated zone, and as long as you don't exceed the grain size to the well diameter, you won't do any damage to the well casing. But as far as it's going to reach into the formation, um, we're talking about creating a sonic boom underwater, which gives us a hertz range that our nation happen, and it's going to travel, as fast as the speed of sound through that formation, breaking up, any bridging or any things that might be, causing flow plugging to happen out there in the formation. That it's going to reach as far as it could possibly travel to. On average, I see when I'm doing seismic readings, I'm picking them up 50 to 100 feet away or so, and that's pretty large area to be able to affect when you're talking about the cone of depression and what kind of energy you're releasing downhole.
Right. Yeah, and it all comes down to basic physics, and that's always the challenge of well rehabilitation is getting through the well screen, the perforations and out into the formation with as much force as possible without damaging the well itself. So,
Right,
so that's physics. You
exactly.
can't.
And knowing how far we're getting out there is difficult because we're taking seismic readings from the surface. So if we're setting a shot off 200 feet to 350 feet, and we're picking it up 50 feet away from the hole at the surface, we may very well have traveled 300 feet into the formation. But by the time it went upward and we actually picked it up at the surface, it's hard to determine how far we reach.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm assuming that after you do that, you're going to go in and do maybe some brushing and some swabbing as well with a surge block to kind of clean things out, follow up with you.
Yes, either before or after. Now, if you do it before, we use all of our energy in the formation itself. If you do it afterward, we've used probably half of our energy at the well casing and the other half in the formation. But it
Yeah,
can make your
and
brush job a lot easier.
yeah, I mean it depends. I mean I showed some pictures of a presentation I did last night of stuff that had like 2 inches of incrustations on the well, so you'd probably want
Right.
to try to hit that and first and break it up and then brush it, I suppose. So might make it a little easier. Yeah, that's the advantage of having the well video, I guess. You can see what you're up against. So,
Right. Yeah, or vice versa. I would recommend going in and doing a rehab on that well prior to doing the shot because you want the explosive to do its work at where you can't reach with a mechanical tool.
right. Yeah. Unless you can't get it off with a brush, or you get what you can
Right.
with the brush first, and then you go in and you blast it
It,
and you may have to go back in with another brush job after that to kind of dislodge things. So yeah, it's going to depend. I guess I'm a big fan of when we do well rehab is that we run a video at multiple stages during the rehab so we can see gauge the progress. I
oh
just
yeah,
I think it's money well spent.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, so otherwise you just can't tell, or if you do it, a couple weeks after you're done, then then there's no opportunity to go back in and correct any issues. Okay, so um, so now we kind of get to the case study part and some stories on interesting jobs you've had, or if you got any good case studies you can share with us on maybe some things that went really well or some challenging situations you tackled and got done. Those are the things people always want to hear about, I guess.
Well, what has gotten the explosive method for well demolition so popular is the overall grout volumes that we're putting in these wells. So, ordinarily, with Bulletin 74 in the state of California, when we do a well destruction, if we see 5 to 10% overcasing volume, we're considering this, an effectively destroyed well. When you use the explosive method for well demolition, it's not uncommon to see 150% plus of concrete going into these wells. So whether it's sand slurry, neat cement, we're putting much, much greater amounts of steel materials in the locations with the explosive method. And the only thing that can be determined by that is that we're getting the absolute best possible seal. So I was just on a job, well, started 3 weeks ago over here in Napa, California, that we had a 750-foot, 18-inch well. We believe it was cable tool construction. It looked like it was old riveted casing. This well wound up taking 14 cement trucks. That's a total of 170, or I mean 114, 120 yards of concrete we put in this well. We put the first 72 yards in, and it came up 200 feet.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
and
So
and what were the dimensions on that well again?
it was 18 inch, and it was about 750 foot.
Wow. That's a lot of concrete.
Right. I
Man.
mean, calculated volume was a little over 60 or 60 yards to fill the well, completely. And as we started pumping, we lost the bottom end of the well just because of the weight of the concrete pushing on the casing. And we found
Right.
a void space that I estimated to be somewhere around 44, 48 inches in diameter.
Wow.
So we finally got
So
the well full after putting 14 trucks in. We pushed the button on it, and we needed another 20 yards.
so this was an alluvial well or a bedrock well?
It was an alluvial. It was near the river basin over there in Napa Valley. Probably sandy loams down below us.
Okay.
Ridiculously deep, in all honesty, when you think about the where it was located. But
Yeah.
yeah, this well probably pumped sand its entire life,
Yeah.
and even though we put an obscene amount of cement in the hole just to get it to the surface, once we had done the perforation on it after the fact, we found that it wanted another 20 yards of material.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. You'd have a void that size down that deep, but I
Right,
guess it happens. If you got a pretty good sander, all that sand is going into the well, and nothing's following behind it. So you get a
right.
void
It came
space.
from somewhere.
Yeah, it just keeps expanding out. Wow,
Yep.
interesting. So all right, that's an interesting story. So how about some other challenges you've had in the business? Um, some interesting stories.
Well, nested monitoring wells have become quite an issue in the state. There in
Wow.
the late 80s, early 90s, we were drilling, holes that were 10, 12 inches, and we were putting 3 or 4 different 2-inch monitoring wells in there. And afterward, it was later determined that without a 2-inch annulus seal in between, each of these individual monitoring wells, that they weren't coming up to what would be considered standard for well construction. So now we have the issue of trying to destroy a well that has multiple steel casings inside of a small borehole, staying on track of it, and sometimes these things go down 200, 300 feet in some areas. So the idea was brought to me of, hey, do you think we can perforate these with the explosive method? So, well, yeah, I do. Let's see if we can. Do we have a case study we can try? Something that you're willing to drill out if it doesn't go well. And Metro Air Park was the location here in Sacramento County, just outside of the international airport. I believe there's an Amazon building sitting on top of it now. But we went out and we attempted to perforate multiple well casings with a heavy grain det cord and leave them in place. But we wanted to get through all three of these nested wells. They were all 2-inch steel casings. Uh, we laced the deepest hole with a heavy explosive charge, and we filled them all with neat cement. When we set the shot off, we lost the grout in all three wells. So we knew, right off the get-go that yes, we were able to effectively perforate all three well casings with a single string. And by the time I think we did the grout volumes of gallons on that one, I want to say it wound up being 300 gallons of neat cement that went in these holes. Yeah, everyone was very happy with the results and rather surprised with the amount of grout volume that they wound up taking.
Well, they get a good seal. I know when you do the pressure grouting or even drilling it out, it's just hard to get that. Even if you're pressuring it up, it's hard to get that good seal. I kind of
Right.
doubt about it. So that's why I like your method. So let me back up a little bit because I think I forgot to ask this question. Is how does a typical job go? Yeah, I mean, what type of explosives do you use? How do you prep the well? And what is the order of business on destroying a well? I totally skipped over that question, so I apologize, but I definitely wanted to ask you that.
But that's okay. It's actually a pretty straightforward process. We go about it just like you would go about any other well destruction. You're going to need your contractor on site with the rig and the trimming pipe so we can place the grout from the bottom to the top. Inspection of the inside of the well casing, just so we know what we're getting ourselves into, whether it's a video survey or we tag the bottom of the hole. Um, our contractor will come out and he'll run that trimming pipe down to the bottom and we'll get ready to grout the hole. I'll show up on site about an hour and a half, 2 hours prior to the scheduled permit and cement time. I'll actually get that well loaded at that time and get it ready to grout. So I want my weight of my charge to be down just below the tip of the trimming pipe. So when we get those first few pumps of cement down the hole, it anchors the shot line in the bottom of the hole. Once we pump the cement to the surface and extract the trimming pipe, we'll clear the area and detonate the charge, which then perforates the well casing. And we try to do it as speedy as possible so we can keep the cement in a fluid form and let it flow out into the well casing and surrounding formation. And then we top the thing off with whatever the extra cement is necessary, remove the top foot of 5 feet of the well casing, backfill the hole, and you're done.
Okay, so that's using like a det cord then type of explosive.
Well, a dead cord is a primary explosive that we use. The core compound of that is pentaethyl tetranitrate. Larger well casings might require a booster charge attached to the dead cord, and we would use that for 16, 18, 20-inch well casings that just need a little more bump to get through them. We'll stretch those on the dead cord and use the dead cord to initiate them because we want the whole charge to go off at one time. And but yeah, Pentex or PETN is my primary explosive compound that I like to use. It tends to burn cleaner than some other ones like RDX or Simtex, and leaves behind simple carbons by the time you've broken your bonds.
Great, interesting. So now, do you see any difference in like obviously there's a lot of the older wells are the mild steel casing, but do you abandon many that are like stainless steel? Is there any difference in stainless steel wells? It's kind of the gold standard of municipal wells, I guess.
Well, I do quite a bit of municipal wells as well, and stainless steel does act a little bit differently under burst impact. Stainless has a tendency to stretch, so we have to hit it with a little more energy than we normally would for a mild steel casing. But the principles are the same. Once you get into downhole blasting, whether you're using water or whether you're using cement, you're dealing with a non-compressible media. So upon detonation, we're not actually blasting the well with the explosive. We're blasting it with the concrete that we've just accelerated past the speed of sound all at one time. It's an instantaneous acceleration which causes a hydraulic impact at the well casing.
Ah, interesting. So that's something I didn't know. So you're accelerating, you're using the explosive to accelerate the bent or the grout, and that's actually what's doing the breaking of the well. Then, all right, hypersonic speeds, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. We're able to apply 100% of our burst pressure to the well casing with this method.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know how exactly the process worked. I've seen it done in the past, and I know there. You recently did a well down in San Diego County that I was working on. I wasn't there for that, but I know Steve Stieg was, who's in the audience here today, and it was you did a great job on that. So we got that closed out with the county pretty well. So everybody was pretty happy with that. So
Fantastic. Great to hear.
except for Tim Gashard said he got mud on his car, but
It happens every now and again.
that's okay. He can wash his car. So okay, anything else you want to share? I think I've gone through my list of questions, but anything else you want to share with folks? And and then I'll just kind of wrap things up here. I got your contact information. I'll post up here in your website as well. But anything else you'd like to share with folks? Because we want to get the word out on, because I know you do great work, and you pioneer in the field. You've been doing it, and you're awesome with what you do. So, anything else you want to share?
Well, quite common. You hear the explosive word, and people tend to freak out, and it's completely understandable. Um, just wanted to say that this method can be used just about anywhere. I've done this type of well destruction in basements, in garages. I've found it, in people's homes, in their closet. I found them right next to pipelines, active gas stations, in the middle of the street, next to underground utilities. As long as you design your shop properly and adhere to your seismic standards, there's no reason this method couldn't be implemented just about anywhere. I'm currently using it in California, Arizona, and Nevada. It's quite popular in all three states, and I, I hope to see it used more often. In all honesty, I have a couple of inspectors here in the state of California that they said, this is the best method out there for well destruction. This is we like to do it, and you only have one opportunity to destroy a well, and getting down inside of that pipe to the total depth and destroying it all night is the best way of going about it. That's what they like to see.
Yeah. Steve had one more question here too. What laws or regulations surround well closure? I think that's going to vary
Well,
state by state,
Bulletin
actually.
74, state by state, there are different rules and regulations for well demolition. State of California, Bulletin 7490 and 7481 are the standards for water wells, and well demolition practices are listed in there.
Okay.
We are working with Department of Water Resources right now on a rewrite, and we're hoping to see an update to Bulletin 74 come 2022, 2023.
Yeah. 2024, 2025. They've been promising it for a long
2029.
time.
I've been working on it since 2010. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It'll come one of these days. It
right.
does not seem to be real high on their priority list, but I know they're working on it. It really does need to be updated. So that's interesting. Okay. And now are you based in Bakersfield or Sacramento?
I operate out of both locations actually.
Okay.
I'm in the mobile office in Sacramento right now, and then I run an office out of Bakersfield as well.
Okay. Got it. I was just a little confused on that because I used to live in Sacramento, so it's just kind of so I know that area pretty well, but I had thought you were mainly in Bakersfield, but you do. You're in three states anyway, so you obviously
Yeah.
have a mobile office and you're out and about, and anybody that's in the well business is going to be well traveled, I think, or especially doing what you do. So
Well, I just got a call from a client in Arizona this morning. Looks like I'll be headed out there next week to recover about 1,400 foot of drill stem for him.
okay, well, probably still hot down there, but hey,
Yeah.
you know, we can't all do our work in the winter, but okay. Well, I one thing I would say is in this business, experience really counts. I mean, because when you're dealing with the explosives, you make it look easy, but I know it's not. So your experience really comes into play in this stuff, and I'm a big believer in the explosive well destruction. I think it provides a more complete destruction, and when it comes to sealing water wells, abandoning them, we really got to prevent that. We've seen so many cases where contamination results from water wells that have been abandoned without being destroyed. And so it's really important to get that good contact and good seal going. And, your method is really, the best way to get that done.
Well, that's what we feel as well, and you're absolutely right. When it comes to an old water well that's been in the ground for an umpteen amount of years and just left completely open, all it is a direct conduit into your groundwater. Whatever it is that goes down that hole winds up directly in your groundwater storage system, whether it's oils or nitrates or whatever it may be. And closing these things off is protection of groundwater at the end of the day. Right
Yeah.
now we're having a big push in destroying wells that are perforated over multiple zones. So
Yeah,
we
that's a
have two
disaster
aquifers or
waiting
three
to happen.
aquifers that are layered, and right now during construction and production, your farmer loves it. He's getting all the water he possibly can. But at the end life of that well, it's now just a conduit for upward and downward migration.
Right. Yeah. When you're not using it anymore, and we've seen situations where you get, like high TDS water in one aquifer zone and not in the other, and so you get mixing involved. So it's kind of,
Right.
it's kind of an iffy practice sometimes. I've seen situations with monitoring wells where they've got contamination situation where they've cross contaminated aquifers, and so boy, you
Right.
can't carry
Right.
enough insurance to deal with that as a
Yeah,
consultant.
and the
So
net monitoring well is probably one of the biggest culprits of that.
yeah, exactly. So well, okay. I think I'm all out of the questions I had. So any final words? I'll post your contact information and your website up here for folks. And what we'll do is I usually take this, I edit it down because I lop some of the beginning off, and then I'll post it up on social media for folks as well. So we'll get it out there for people to view. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge. And like I say, you're the expert. We highly recommend you for well destructions, and we hope to see you in the field in the near future.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, Tom. It's been a pleasure being on the show. And yeah, if there's anything else I can do for you in the future, feel free to give me a call.
Real good. I'll post your information up there, and hold on a minute. I got it right here. Here's your contact information. Tyler, thanks so much. Best of luck to you as you head back to the field in Arizona, and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom.
Okay, so here's Tyler's information. His website is actually a pretty good website. He's got some good information there. He's got some videos, so you can log on and see the videos and enjoy that. So it's blowing up wells. It sounds really exciting, but if it's done right, it's actually kind of boring. So that's something to keep in mind. But I know his website does have some videos on there, and you can watch and see how the process is done. So we really like Tyler. He does great work. He's an expert, and he makes it look easy. It's not quite as easy as he describes, because you really got to get in there and look at the individual well and design the specific program for that individual well, and he makes it look easy, but that's because he's the expert, and so we look to him to do that. So anyway, I guess that's kind of it for our show today. I thank everybody for being here, and if you're watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube or any of the recording, what I wanted to do is give you some of the information for following our show live. We do have the YouTube channel that we broadcast live into is right here. We do that live on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central time. We broadcast that live, and then the recording is available there. We also have a Facebook group. Groundwater Talk Live is the easy way to get there. It's got a kind of nondescript identifier there, so just look for Groundwater Talk Live, and we post the videos there too. I also post these up on LinkedIn, and so we do that. If you want to be a guest on Groundwater Talk Live, here is the link to book a time slot. I have a scheduling application or page. You can just go there and grab a Thursday slot We'd love to have you on if you got good information about for the groundwater community, water system operators and geologists and engineers that watch the show. So be sure to come on and share your information. We love useful information. So there's the link actually to book a time on Groundwater Talk Live. And lastly, here's my LinkedIn profile. That's a good place to get a hold of me. My email is up there as well. So you're more than welcome to contact me there. Just drop me a line. I love to chat with you about anything. I'm always available to answer questions, so feel free to drop me a line. I love to connect with you and share information. I'm always learning from you folks as well, and the guests we have on here. So I appreciate all of you and willing to share your information and feel free to get in touch. With that, thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great day. If you're watching this on the replay video, be sure to post comments below the video. Thank you very much.